The great chamber on Nexus Prime had never been so full. Representatives from 847 different species sat in their floating pods, all watching the center stage. The air buzzed with translated voices as everyone talked at once. Today was different. Today, they would make a decision that had not been made for 3,000 years. Ambassador Zethkar stepped forward. His blue skin gleamed under the bright lights. He was from the hegemony, one of the oldest and most powerful species in the council. When he spoke, his voice carried the weight of centuries. "Fellow council members," he began, "we gather today to discuss the human problem. For 12 years, we have tried to guide them. For 12 years, we have been patient. But they refused to listen." A hologram appeared above the chamber floor. It showed a star map with red dots marking human colonies. There were far more red dots than there should have been. "Look at this," Zethkar said, pointing to the map. "They were supposed to stay in their home system. We put them under quarantine to protect both them and us. But what do? They spread like a disease across the galaxy." The chamber erupted in angry sounds. Some species clicked their mandibles. Others hissed. A few roared their displeasure. The humans had broken the most sacred law of the council. "But that is not all," Zethkar continued. The hologram changed to show human ships near a primitive world. 3 days ago, our scouts found this. Human vessels seeding quantum communication networks on worlds that barely have fire. This violates the Prime Development Directive. They are forcing advanced technology on species that are not ready. A representative from the ethereal collective floated forward. Their voice sounded like wind through crystals. "Perhaps they simply do not understand our ways. They are young? Zethkar's laugh was bitter. "They understand perfectly. We have told them the rules many times. They choose to ignore us. They reverse engineer our technology. They build artificial intelligences despite our warnings. They act like they own the galaxy." Far from Nexus Prime, in a deep bunker beneath the mountains of Earth, Director Sarah Chun watched the council meeting. The feeds came from hidden cameras and intercepted signals. Technology that officially did not exist. Chun was a small woman with gray hair and sharp eyes. She had been planning for this day for 12 years. Around her, nervous advisors whispered among themselves. "Director," said Colonel Martinez, her military aide, "maybe we should try to stop this. Send a message. Explain ourselves." Chun did not look away from the screen. "No, this is exactly what we want. But they're talking about war. Real war. The Council has weapons that could destroy our entire planet." "Yes," Chun said quietly. "They do." On the screen, the debate continued. Species after species stood to speak against humanity. The crystalline hive complained about human mining operations near their sacred crystals. The gas giants protested human research stations in their atmosphere. Everyone had a complaint. Finally, the vote was called. The ancient voting system activated. 847 lights appeared in the air. Red for war. Blue for continued diplomacy. Green for more sanctions. The lights began to change color. Red. Few blue lights appeared, but they were quickly outnumbered. No green lights at all. "The vote is unanimous," announced the council speaker, an ancient being whose species had died out eons ago, but whose consciousness lived on in the council systems. "War is declared upon the human species and their territories. All quarantine protocols are lifted. All restrictions on military action are removed." In her bunker, Chun smiled for the first time in months. She reached over and pressed a button on her console. Across the room, a massive screen lit up. On it appeared the face of Admiral Harrison, commander of the secret human fleet. "Admiral," Chun said, "Phase 1 is complete." "Send the signal." Harrison nodded. Signal sent, Director. All ships are moving to position. Chun turned to her shocked advisors. Gentlemen, ladies, today marks the beginning of humanity's real introduction to the galaxy. I don't understand, said Dr. Williams, her science advisor. We're about to be invaded by the most powerful military force in the galaxy. How is this good? Chun called up another display. It showed the solar system, but not as any of her advisors had seen it before. Instead of a few planets and some space stations, the display was full of structures. Massive shipyards, hidden military bases, fleets of ships unlike anything the Council had ever seen. For 12 years, we've been trapped in this system, Chun explained. The Council thought they were protecting the galaxy from us, but they were actually protecting us from learning what we could really do when we had a reason to push our limits. She pressed another button. The display expanded beyond the solar system. Hidden colonies appeared on the map. Secret research stations. Entire fleets stationed in dark space between star systems. Every time they told us we couldn't do something, they were telling us exactly what we needed to learn how to do. Every restriction was a lesson plan. Every forbidden technology was a challenge. Colonel Martinez stared at the display. How long have you been planning this? Since the day they put us in quarantine, Chun said. They made one critical mistake. They assumed we would accept their limitations. But humans don't work that way. When you tell us something is impossible, we take that as a personal insult. On Nexus Prime, the Council was already discussing battle plans. Admiral Kashtu of the Hegemony Fleet was chosen to lead the attack. She was experienced, having put down 3 rebellions in the past century. How many ships do the humans have? She asked her intelligence officers. Approximately 50 vessels, came the reply. Primitive designs, chemical rockets, and early fusion drives. They should pose no real threat. Admiral Kashtu nodded. This would be easy. Perhaps too easy. In her experience, when something seemed too easy, it usually was. Back on Earth, Chun watched the Council fleets begin to move. Massive ships from a dozen different species, all heading toward the Sol system. The largest military force assembled in 1,000 years. Director, asked Dr. Williams, what exactly do you expect to achieve? Even with hidden fleets, we can't match their numbers. Chun's smile grew wider. Doctor, who said anything about matching their numbers? We're not going to fight the Council. We're going to give them exactly what they think they want. A war with humanity. She turned to face the room full of confused advisors. And when it's over, the galaxy will never be the same again. Outside the bunker, humanity waited. Most of them had no idea what was coming. But in secret facilities across Earth and beyond, the real human fleet powered up their weapons and prepared to show the galaxy what 12 years of forced innovation could accomplish. The war was about to begin. And for the first time in their history, the Galactic Council had no idea what they were really fighting. Admiral Kashtu stood on the bridge of her flagship, the Eternal Judgment. Around her, the largest fleet in Council history moved through space toward the Sol system. 700 ships from dozens of species, all united in purpose. They would end the human threat once and for all. Time to target, she asked her navigation officer. 6 hours, Admiral. The humans show no signs of fleeing. That bothered her. Any rational species would have started evacuating the moment war was declared. But the humans seemed to be doing nothing. Their few ships continued their normal patrols. Their space stations operated as if nothing had changed. Maybe they're too primitive to understand what's happening, suggested Commander Vorth, her tactical officer. Kashtu shook her head. Never underestimate an enemy. The humans may be young, but they're not stupid. They've shown that much over the past 12 years. As the fleet approached the edge of the Sol system, something strange began happening. Human ships started broadcasting on every frequency at once. Not distress calls or surrender offers. Something else entirely. Translation complete, Admiral, reported the communications officer. The message says, "The quarantine is lifted. Welcome to the neighborhood." What does that mean? Vorth asked. Before anyone could answer, space around the Sol system began to change. Ships appeared where there had been empty space moments before. But these weren't the primitive human vessels they expected. These ships were massive, sleek, and built with technology that made no sense. Sensors report multiple contacts, called the scanner operator. "I'm counting. This can't be right. Report," Keshtu ordered. "Over 3,000 human vessels, Admiral. They're appearing from behind the asteroid belt, from the gas giant systems, from everywhere." The bridge fell silent. 3,000 ships. The intelligence reports had said 50. Where had the other ships come from? On Earth, Director Chun watched the Council fleet's confusion with satisfaction. In the 12 years of quarantine, humanity had learned to hide things very well. "Open a channel to all Council ships," she ordered. Her image appeared on every bridge in the Council fleet. She sat calmly in what looked like a simple office, but Admiral Keshtu noticed details that troubled her. The walls showed star maps of systems far beyond Council space. The technology visible in the background was decades ahead of anything in Council databases. "Greetings, Admiral Keshtu," Chun said, somehow knowing exactly who she was talking to. "I'm Director Sarah Chun of the Terran Defense Command. I believe you're here to declare war on us." "Surrender now," Keshtu replied, "and your species will be relocated to a more suitable system. Continue to resist, and we will use force." Chun laughed. It was not the sound of someone who was afraid. "Admiral, I think there's been a misunderstanding. You believe you're here to punish us for breaking your rules. But we've been hoping you would declare war for years." "That's impossible. No species wants war with the Council." "Most species don't," Chen agreed. "But then, most species aren't human. You see, Admiral, you've made a critical error. You thought keeping us locked in one system would limit us. Instead, it focused us." The display behind Chan changed to show a map of human space. But it wasn't just the Sol system anymore. Red dots spread across hundreds of star systems, including many deep in Council territory. For 12 years, we've been exploring, building, and preparing. Every time you told us we couldn't do something, we found a way to do it better than you. Every restriction you placed on us became a challenge we had to overcome. Admiral Keshtu stared at the map. "Those systems are under Council protection. You couldn't have reached them without us knowing, couldn't we?" Chun asked. "Admiral, what do you know about human stealth technology? Or our faster-than-light communication systems? Or our ability to move through space without using traditional jump gates?" As if to prove her point, more human ships began appearing around the Council fleet. They simply materialized from what had seemed like empty space. Advanced cloaking technology that the Council didn't know existed. "This is impossible," Vorth whispered. Chun heard him through the open channel. "Commander Vorth, isn't it? Your file says you're an expert on impossible things. Tell me, did your sensors detect our ships before they uncloaked?" "No," he admitted reluctantly. "Then perhaps your definition of impossible needs updating." Keshtu tried to regain control of the situation. "Numbers don't matter. Council ships are more advanced than anything you could build in 12 years. Are they?" Chun asked. "Let me show you something interesting." The space around one of the Council's heavy cruisers suddenly filled with light. When it faded, the ship was gone. Not destroyed. Simply gone, as if it had never existed. "Where is my ship?" Keshtu demanded. "Safe," Chun replied. "We transported it to a holding area about 50 light years from here. Don't worry, Your crew is unharmed. But I wanted to demonstrate something important. That ship had shields that your own engineers said were impenetrable. It had weapons that could level planets. It had armor made from materials you consider the strongest in the galaxy. She paused to let that sink in. And we moved it 50 light years in 3 seconds. Without using any technology you understand. The Council fleet stopped advancing. Ship captains called for instructions. Several species began arguing over private channels about whether to continue the attack. Chun continued her broadcast. You're wondering how we did that. You're wondering what else we can do. You're starting to realize that maybe this war isn't going to go the way you expected. She was right. Keshthu had fought many battles, but she had never faced an enemy that could make ships simply disappear. What do you want? She asked finally. That's the beautiful part, Admiral. We want exactly what's happening right now. You see, humanity has a problem. We advance too quickly. We innovate too fast. We always want to push beyond our current limits. But for 12 years, we've been alone. We've had no one to test ourselves against except ourselves. Chun leaned forward in her chair. Do you know what happens when humans have no external challenges? We create our own. We fight each other. We stagnate. We become something less than what we could be. So you wanted us to attack you? We needed you to attack us, Chung corrected. We needed a reason to show the galaxy what we've really become. We needed to prove that your rules and restrictions weren't protection. They were chains. Around the Sol system, more human ships continued to appear. The 3,000 had become 5,000, then 10,000. Ships of designs that seemed to bend the rules of physics. But more importantly, Chun continued, we needed to show you something. Your council has been stagnant for 3,000 years. You've achieved peace through preventing progress. You've maintained order by making sure no one could ever challenge the way things are. She stood up from her chair. That's not peace, Admiral. That's slow death. And we're here to cure the galaxy of that disease. Keshthu realized with growing horror that humanity had planned this entire confrontation. Every violation of council law, every ignored warning, every act of defiance had been leading to this moment. What happens now? She asked. Chun smiled. Now, Admiral, you're going to learn what humans can really do when we set our minds to it. And when we're done, both our species will be better than they've ever been before. The trap had been sprung. The Council fleet found itself surrounded by technology they didn't understand, facing an enemy that had wanted this fight from the beginning. The war had begun, but nothing was going according to plan. Captain Maria Santos stood on the observation deck of the exploration vessel Endeavour, watching as her ship dropped out of faster-than-light travel. Ahead of her lay Kepler 442b, one of humanity's secret colonies. But calling it a colony didn't do it justice. The planet's surface was covered with massive structures that reached into space. Automated shipyards worked day and night, building vessels with technology that would have seemed like magic 12 years ago. Swarms of construction robots moved between the facilities, following plans that updated themselves every few minutes. How many ships are they producing per day? Asked Lieutenant Foster, her science officer. The current rate is about 50, Santos replied. They've been doing this for 8 years. Foster did the math quickly. That's over 100,000 ships. And this is just one facility. We have 12 others like it. Santos touched a control panel, and a holographic display appeared showing the Kepler system. The planet was just the beginning. Every asteroid had been converted into a mining operation. The system's gas giants were surrounded by energy collection platforms that fed power to the shipyards. Even the star itself had collection arrays drawing power directly from its fusion reactions. The Council always wondered how we could advance so quickly, Santos said. They thought we were just naturally talented. They never realized we were cheating. While the Council had been watching Earth, humanity had been spreading across the galaxy in secret. Not through traditional colonization, but through what they called shadow seeding. Small teams would arrive at uninhabited systems and build automated facilities. These facilities would then build more facilities, creating a network of hidden industrial capacity. Captain, called Commander Park from the ship's bridge. We're receiving a priority message from Director Chun. Put it through. Chun's image appeared in front of them. Behind her, Santos could see the familiar walls of the command bunker on Earth. Captain Santos, Chun said, how is our demonstration project going? Ready to proceed, Director. The 10th Prime Observation Post has been monitoring Council military installations for 3 years. We have complete intelligence on their defensive capabilities. Good. It's time to show them what we've been up to. Santos nodded and turned to her crew. Take us to 10th Prime. It's time to introduce ourselves to the hegemony. 10th Prime was the capital world of the hegemony, one of the most powerful species in the Council. Their military headquarters controlled defense operations for 17 sectors. It was also one of the most heavily defended worlds in the galaxy. What they didn't know was that humanity had been watching them for years. The Endeavor arrived in the 10th Prime system and immediately began broadcasting on all frequencies. The message was simple. Greetings from your neighbors. On the surface of 10th Prime, General Kethvar was reviewing defense plans when his aide burst into the command center. General, we have a situation. There's a human ship in orbit. Impossible. Our sensors would have detected any approach. They're claiming they've been here for years, sir. Kethvar looked at the sensor displays. Sure enough, there was a human vessel in orbit around his world. But more troubling, the sensors were now detecting structures that hadn't been there moments before. What am I looking at? He demanded. His sensor operator's voice was shaky. Sir, there appears to be a human facility on Moon 3. A large one. Our computers say it's been there for over 3 years, but we have no record of detecting it before now. That's impossible. Moon 3 is right next to our primary military installation. Yes, sir. The human facility is approximately 2 kilometers from our main weapons platform. Kethvar felt a chill run down his spine. If humans have been that close for 3 years, they have been watching everything. Every military exercise, every defense upgrade, every secret meeting. Captain Santos opened a communication channel to the Hegemony Command Center. Her image appeared on Kethvar's main screen. General Kethvar, she said pleasantly. I'm Captain Santos of the Terran Exploration Service. I wanted to introduce myself since we've been neighbors for so long. How long have you been spying on us? Kethvar asked through gritted teeth. Spying is such an ugly word. We prefer observing, and we've been observing for 3 years, 2 months, and 16 days. We have excellent records if you'd like to review them. Santos gestured, and the display behind her showed detailed files on hegemony military operations. Ship movements, weapons tests, strategic planning sessions. Everything. This is impossible, Kethvar said. Our security is absolute. Your security is excellent, Santos agreed. Against Council-level technology. But we've moved a bit beyond that. To demonstrate, she activated a new holographic display. It showed a cross-section view of the hegemony's underground command bunker. Every room, every corridor, every security system was mapped in perfect detail. We've been using quantum scanning technology to map your entire facility. We know where every person is standing right now. We know what they're having for lunch. We even know about the secret escape tunnel you built last year. Kethvar looked around his command center in horror. They had been completely exposed and never known it. What do you want? he asked. Nothing from you specifically, Santos replied. You're just part of a larger demonstration. You see, General, the Council has been operating under some false assumptions about humanity. They thought keeping us in one system would limit our development. They thought they were protecting the galaxy from dangerous human expansion. She paused to let him process that. But what they actually did was give us 12 years to develop in secret. 12 years to build facilities like this one throughout Council space. 12 years to study every species, every technology, every weakness in the Council systems. Cathver's aide was frantically checking sensor readings. General, I'm detecting similar facilities in 17 other systems. All hegemony worlds. They're all uncloaking at the same time. Santos nodded. That's correct. Right now, similar conversations are happening on every major Council world. Your colleagues are discovering that humanity has been there all along, watching and learning. Why reveal yourselves now? Because the war has started, and we wanted to establish something important. We didn't just break your quarantine. We shattered it so completely that we've been operating freely in Council space for years without you even knowing. The implications hit Cathver like a physical blow. If humans could hide facilities next to their most secure installations, if they could monitor everything without being detected, then the entire Council's understanding of their own security was wrong. But here's the really important part, General, Santos continued. We're not here to conquer you. We're here to wake you up. What do you mean? Your species, like most Council species, has been stagnant for centuries. You've achieved a stable society by avoiding risk. You've maintained peace by preventing change. But that's not life, General. That's just slow death. Santos called up another display, this one showing hegemony technological development over the past 1,000 years. The line was almost flat. In 12 years, humanity has advanced further than your species has in a millennium. Not because we're superior, but because we've been forced to innovate. The quarantine didn't contain us. It compressed us. It forced us to become something new. And now you want to do the same to us? Now we want to show you what's possible when you stop accepting limitations as permanent. When you stop believing that the way things are is the way things must be. Cathver looked around his command center. His people were staring at the displays, showing years of human surveillance. The psychological impact was devastating. Everything they had believed about their own security was wrong. General, Santos said gently, your people are warriors. Your species conquered 6 star systems through courage and innovation. But when was the last time you built something new? When was the last time you pushed beyond what you thought was possible? She was right, and Cathver knew it. The hegemony had been living on the achievements of their ancestors for centuries. What happens now? He asked. Now you have a choice, Santos replied. You can try to fight us using the same old methods, the same old thinking, the same old limitations. Or you can join us in discovering what both our species can become when we stop accepting impossible as an answer. Across Council space, similar conversations were happening on dozens of worlds. Humanity was revealing not just their presence, but their purpose. They hadn't come to conquer. They had come to teach. The galaxy was about to learn what humans meant by impossible. The emergency session of the Galactic Council was unlike anything in their 3,000-year history. Representatives from 800 species filled the chamber on Nexus Prime, but instead of their usual calm debate, panic filled the air. Ambassador Zethkar stood at the center podium, his blue skin pale with shock. Around him, holographic displays showed human facilities that had been hidden throughout Council space. Facilities that had been watching, learning, and preparing for years. The humans have made fools of us all, he announced to the chamber. They have been in our systems, next to our most secure installations, monitoring our every move. And we detected nothing. A representative from the crystalline hive clicked its mandibles angrily. How is this possible? Our sensors are the best in the galaxy. Apparently not, said the delegate from the gas giants. The humans have technology we don't understand. Technology that shouldn't exist. High Admiral Keshthu appeared as a hologram from her flagship. Her fleet was still trapped in the Sol system, surrounded by thousands of human ships that had appeared from nowhere. Council members, she reported. I can confirm that human technological capabilities exceed all our estimates. They moved one of our heavy cruisers 50 light years in seconds. They have cloaking technology that makes our ships invisible to our own sensors. And they seem to know everything about our military operations. The chamber erupted in frightened chatter. Species that had been enemies for millennia were united in their fear of what humanity had become. Order, called the ancient council speaker. We must decide how to respond to this threat. Threat? The voice came from an unexpected source. Councillor Vethana of the Peaceful Assembly rose from her seat. Her species had been pacifists for over 2 millennia. Perhaps we should ask ourselves why we consider advanced technology a threat. Because look what it's led to. Zefkar snapped. The humans have violated every law we have. They've ignored our quarantine. They've built weapons we can't defend against. Yes, Vethana replied calmly. They've advanced beyond our control. And that terrifies us. But why should it? The question hung in the air. It was Admiral Korthik of the Warfleet who answered. Because advanced species destabilize the galaxy, he growled. They conquer others. They impose their will through superior force. They create chaos. Like we did, added Council Speaker, quietly. An uncomfortable silence fell over the chamber. The speaker rarely spoke of the distant past, but when they did, everyone listened. Councillor Vethana raises an important point, the speaker continued. We created the quarantine system not to protect emerging species. We created it to protect ourselves, to maintain the order we had built. More uncomfortable shifting. Many of the younger species didn't know the full history of the Council's formation. 3,000 years ago, we nearly destroyed ourselves. The Hegemony Wars, the Crystal Crusades, the Great Purge. Species after species developed advanced technology and used it to conquer others. The galaxy was in constant warfare. Admiral Korthik stood up. Which is exactly why we must stop the humans now before they follow the same path. But have they? Asked Vethana. They've had superior technology for years. They've been hidden throughout our space. If they wanted to conquer us, why didn't they attack when we were unaware and vulnerable? It was a good question. One that several council members were beginning to ask themselves. Admiral Keshthu's image flickered as her connection was updated. Council members, I have disturbing news. Our intelligence division has been analyzing human facilities. We estimate they have industrial capacity exceeding our own by a factor of 10. Their fleet size may exceed 1 million vessels. And their technology, she paused. Their technology appears to be self-improving. Self-improving? Zefkar asked. Their artificial intelligences are designing new artificial intelligences. Their manufacturing systems are building better manufacturing systems. They're advancing exponentially, not linearly. The full horror of the situation began to dawn on the council. They weren't just facing a more advanced enemy. They were facing an enemy that was becoming more advanced every day. There is one option, said Admiral Korthik quietly. The reality bombs. The chamber fell completely silent. Reality bombs were the Council's most forbidden weapon. They could destabilize space-time itself, potentially destroying entire star systems. You can't be serious, said Vethana. Those weapons are banned for good reason. Using them could damage the fabric of space itself. If we don't act now, Korthik replied, humanity will advance beyond any hope of stopping them. In 5 years, 10 years, they can have technology that makes our reality bombs look like toys. Zethkar was already calling for a vote. All in favor of authorizing the use of reality bombs against the Sol system? The voting began. Red lights for yes, blue for no. The count was close, but fear won out over wisdom. The vote passed by a narrow margin. Admiral Keshthu, Zethkar announced, you are authorized to use reality bombs against Earth's star. Destabilize Sol and end this threat before it can spread further. Admiral Keshthu nodded grimly. Understood. Preparing reality bomb deployment. But as her crew began the activation sequence for their most powerful weapons, something unexpected happened. Every screen on every ship in the Council fleet simultaneously displayed the same image. Director Sarah Chun, sitting calmly in what appeared to be a chair floating in space. Good afternoon, Council fleet, she said pleasantly. I hope you don't mind the interruption. I wanted to discuss your current plan. Admiral Keshthu stared at the image. How are you broadcasting to our ships? This is impossible. Admiral, we really need to update your definition of impossible. As for how I'm broadcasting, I'm currently sitting on the bridge of a ship that's inside your ship. We've been here since you arrived in the Sol system. The implications hit like a physical blow. If humans could hide ships inside Council vessels, then there was no such thing as security anymore. Impossible, Keshthu whispered. There's that word again, Chun said with a smile. Let me show you something interesting. The view behind Chun changed to show the interior of Keshthu's own ship. Human technicians were working calmly at Council control stations. They had been there all along, invisible to the ship's crew. We've been monitoring your reality bomb preparations with great interest, Chun continued. Fascinating weapons. We've learned quite a bit about space-time manipulation from studying them. You're bluffing. Admiral Korthik's voice came over the communication system. You can't have infiltrated our entire fleet, can't we? Chun asked. Another display appeared, showing human teams aboard dozens of Council ships. Admiral, we've been inside your system since the moment you declared war. Every plan you've made, every weapon you've prepared, every secret you think you have, we've been watching it all. The reality of their situation began to sink in. The Council fleet was completely compromised. What do you want? Keshthu asked. I want to show you something your own history forgot, Chun replied. You see, we've been studying your past. The real reason you created the quarantine system. The real reason you've maintained technological stagnation for 3 millennia. The display behind Chun changed to show ancient star charts. 3,000 years ago, your species were advancing rapidly. New discoveries every year. New technologies every decade. It was a golden age of innovation. It was a time of chaos, Admiral Korthik protested. Species used their advancement to wage war. Some did, Chun agreed. But most didn't. Most species use their advancement to explore, to create, to become something better than they had been. You've forgotten that part of your history. She called up more data. We've analyzed your historical records. For every species that used technology for conquest, 5 others used it for peaceful advancement. But you only remember the conquerors because they made the most noise. That's not possible. Zethkar's voice came through the communication system. It's not only possible, it's provable. We have access to archives you've lost. Records from the peaceful civilizations that advanced alongside the warlike ones. They built amazing things, Ambassador. Art that could reshape reality. Science that could heal dying stars. Technology that could create new forms of life. The display showed images of ancient wonders. Cities that floated in space. Gardens that grew on dead worlds. Species that had transcended their original forms to become something greater. You stopped all of that, Chun said quietly. In your fear of the warlike species, you created a system that prevented any species from advancing. You traded growth for stability, progress for peace. And it worked, Korthik said defensively. We've had peace for 3,000 years. You've had stagnation for 3,000 years, Chun corrected. There's a difference. Peace through growth is true peace. Peace through limitation is just postponed conflict. She leaned forward in her floating chair. Admiral, what do you think will happen when you use those reality bombs? When you destroy Sol and prove to the galaxy that the Council will use ultimate force to maintain their control? How long before other species decide they need reality bombs of their own? The question hung in the air. Admiral Kashthu realized that destroying Earth wouldn't end the conflict. It would begin a new kind of war, one fought with weapons that could unmake reality itself. 6 months after the Council declared war on humanity, Director Sarah Chun stood before the assembled representatives of 847 species. But this time, she wasn't watching from hidden cameras in an Earth bunker. She stood at the center podium of the Great Chamber on Nexus Prime. The chamber had changed. Where once floating pods kept each species separate and isolated, now representatives sat together in mixed groups. Humans worked alongside former council members, sharing data displays and collaborating on projects that would have been impossible under the old system. 6 months ago, Chun began. You declared war on humanity because you believed we were a threat to galactic stability. You were right. We were a threat, but not in the way you thought. She gestured, and a holographic display appeared showing the galaxy as it had been under council rule. Thousands of systems, each locked into rigid patterns of development, each prevented from advancing beyond carefully controlled limits. For 3,000 years, you maintained peace through stagnation. You prevented war by preventing progress. You achieved stability by ensuring that no one could ever challenge the way things were. The display changed to show the galaxy as it was now. The same systems, but connected by networks of communication and trade that had never existed before. Species that had been isolated for millennia were working together on projects that pushed the boundaries of what was possible. We didn't come to conquer you, Chun continued. We came to wake you up, to show you what the galaxy could become if you stopped being afraid of change. Admiral Kashthu, now wearing the insignia of the Joint Human Hegemony Fleet, stood up in the audience. Director Chun, when you first showed us your hidden facilities, I thought humanity wanted to replace the Council with human rule. I was wrong. She looked around the chamber at the mixed groups of species working together. You wanted to replace the Council with something better, something that included everyone. Chun nodded. Admiral Kashthu is correct. Humanity never wanted to rule the galaxy. We wanted to free it from the limitations that were holding it back. A representative from the Crystalline Hive stepped forward. Their translator was no longer needed. Advances in communication technology had made universal understanding possible. Director Chun, our species had been the same for 2,000 years. We had achieved perfection, we thought. But working with human scientists, we discovered we were wrong. We have grown in ways we never imagined possible. Similar testimonies came from around the chamber. The gas giants had developed new forms of art that existed in 4 dimensions. The Peaceful Assembly had created healing technologies that could repair damage at the quantum level. Even the warlike species had found new purposes in exploration and discovery. But the most important change, Chun said, isn't technological. It's philosophical. You've remembered something your ancestors knew, but your recent generations forgot. Growth doesn't have to mean conquest. Advancement doesn't have to mean war. Competition doesn't have to mean destruction. She called up another display, this one showing collaborative projects happening throughout the galaxy. Former enemies working together to build space elevators that reach between stars. Ancient mysteries being solved by teams that included dozens of different species. New forms of life being created through the combined knowledge of civilizations that had been separated for millennia. This is what becomes possible when you stop seeing advancement as a threat and start seeing it as an opportunity. Ambassador Zethkar, who had been one of humanity's strongest opponents, rose from his seat. Director Chun, I must ask the question many of us are thinking. What happens when humanity advances beyond us again? What happens when your technology makes our contributions irrelevant? It was a fair question, and Chun had expected it. Ambassador, let me show you something. The display changed to show human research facilities, but they weren't staffed only by humans. Scientists from dozens of species worked alongside human researchers, contributing their unique perspectives and abilities. We learned something important during our 12 years of isolation. Advancement happens faster when it happens together. Every species brings something unique to the table. The crystalline hive's understanding of quantum mechanics. The gas giant's grasp of energy manipulation. The hegemony's expertise in material science. She paused to let that sink in. Alone, humanity advanced quickly, but within limits. Together, all of our species are advancing in ways none of us could achieve alone. Dr. Vethana of the Peaceful Assembly stood up. Are you saying that human advancement requires our participation? I'm saying that true advancement requires everyone's participation, Chun replied. Not just technological advancement, but social advancement, artistic advancement, spiritual advancement, ways of thinking and being that can only emerge when different perspectives come together. She called up one final display. It showed exploration ships heading toward the edge of the galaxy, crewed by members of multiple species. Beyond the galaxy, strange signals have been detected. Signs of other galactic civilizations. The universe is vast, Chun said. Our galaxy is just one of billions. And if the signals we're detecting are correct, we're about to make contact with civilizations that make our combined knowledge look primitive. The chamber fell silent as the implications became clear. When that contact comes, Chun continued, we'll need every advantage we can get. We'll need the combined wisdom of every species in this galaxy. We'll need perspectives we haven't even imagined yet. We'll need to be more than the sum of our parts. Admiral Korthik of the Warfleet, who had been one of the strongest advocates for using reality bombs against Earth, stood up slowly. Director Chun, my species has been warriors for so long that we forgot there were other ways to be strong. But exploring the unknown, that's a different kind of battle. One where victory means discovery instead of destruction. He looked around the chamber at representatives who had once been enemies. I volunteer the Warfleet for the exploration missions. All of our ships, all of our resources. It's time we learn to fight for knowledge instead of territory. The response was immediate. Species after species volunteered resources for the exploration project. Not because they had to, but because they wanted to. For the first time in millennia, they had a common goal that inspired rather than divided them. Chun felt a satisfaction deeper than anything she had experienced during the war. This was what humanity had really been fighting for. Not victory over the Council, but the chance to show the galaxy what cooperation could accomplish. The Terran Accord, she announced, officially recognizes the dissolution of the old Galactic Council and the formation of the new Galactic Alliance. An alliance based not on control, but on collaboration. Not on preventing change, but on guiding it wisely. The vote was unanimous. Every species, including humanity, agreed to join an organization dedicated to growth, exploration, and mutual advancement. As the session ended and representatives began working on the practical details of their new alliance. Chun walked to the chamber's observation deck. Through the massive windows, she could see ships from hundreds of species, working together to build the new exploration fleet. Admiral Keshthu joined her at the window. "Director, was this really what you planned from the beginning?" Chun smiled. "Admiral, the specific details changed over time, but the goal was always the same. Humanity needed to grow, and we needed to help others grow with us. We couldn't do either while trapped by the old system. And if the Council had never declared war, then we would have found another way to break the cycle of stagnation. Humans don't accept limitations as permanent. It's both our greatest strength and our most dangerous weakness." They watched as a joint human hegemony construction team completed the installation of faster-than-light communication arrays on an exploration vessel. Species that had been enemies 6 months ago were now working as partners. "Director," Keshthu said quietly, "what do you think we'll find when we reach the edge of the galaxy?" Chun looked out at the stars, thinking of the signals they had detected. Patterns too complex for any single species to decode, but which were yielding their secrets to teams of mixed researchers. "I think we'll find that the universe is even more amazing than we imagined. And I think we'll discover that what we've built here, this alliance, this cooperation, was exactly what we needed to be ready for whatever comes next." A year later, the first ships of the Galactic Alliance crossed the edge of the galaxy and made contact with what they discovered was a network of advanced civilizations that spanned multiple galaxies. The humans were right about needing every advantage. The challenges ahead would require wisdom, courage, and innovation beyond anything any single species could provide. But they were ready. For the first time in 3,000 years, an entire galaxy was growing together, pushing the boundaries of what was possible, refusing to accept that anything was truly impossible. The war that the Galactic Council had declared to stop human advancement had instead freed the galaxy from the chains of its own limitations. And as exploration ships headed toward adventures no one could imagine, Director Chun's final report contained a single line that summarized everything humanity had tried to achieve.